Welcome to Don't Retire, Graduate, the podcast that asks you what you want to be when you grow up so you can graduate into retirement with purpose and passion. I'm your host and valedictorian, Eric Brotman, and we have an incredible guest today, Hassan Thomas. Hassan is the new face of emerging fintech and the founder of a new app called FYI FLI, which is For Your Information, Financial Literacy and Investing. He's also the CEO of HRT Enterprises, LLC, and the author of the new book, From College to COVID to Recession, a guide to making and managing money during an economic downfall. How timely is that? We've gotten to know each other at multiple FinCon conferences over the years. He's always the single best dressed attendee at that conference. And he and I were both presenters at the 15th annual FPP Financial Capability Training Conference in Orlando earlier this year. So we've been following each other all around the U.S. Hassan, welcome to Don't Retire, Graduate.
Thank you, man. Happy to be here.
This is fun because now I got you in my hot seat, you know, and we've known each other now a bunch of years, and we've had a lot of interactions and met a lot of some amazing people at various places. But your story, and I read the book, I have it with me, and I want to talk about it. But first, I want to hear your story. Like, I didn't know the part about the blowing out your knee on and the way your life changed, and it was a lot to learn about you. It was so authentic. Would you share that story with us and how you got involved in this?
For sure, man, for sure. So 2019, man, not too long ago, was my senior year of college, and I played football at Maryville College, and I actually switched to running back my senior year and ended up getting hurt the 5th week of the season, torn my meniscus, and I was, going through a lot, anxiety, stressing out over that, because like I said, this was my last year. And of course, everybody's goal is to play at the next level, go professional. But I realized that dream was over, so I had to put my energy, I had to put my passion into something else. And that was financial literacy. So I was writing my senior thesis, which is like a research paper over financial literacy. I was telling everybody, hey, I'm about to write this paper, get an A on it, and then turn it into a book. So my cousin was like, man, that's great. Everybody was like, that's great. But my cousin was like, man, you should think about starting an app. And I was like, an app? Whoa. So literally from September to, I would say, December, I did nothing but research on how to create an app. And that's why I just feel like, just a quick little tangent. That's why I feel like the times that we're in today is unprecedented, man. I literally looked up how to create an app like Acorns. I know you're familiar with Acorns. Yeah. So it's a financial app that kind of allows you to spend or save while you spend, for anybody that's not familiar. But I looked up how to create an app like Acorns, and there was a website called How to Create an App Like Acorns.
Well, you got to be careful what you look up then, I guess, because you're going to get exactly what you Google.
Yes, sir. But I brought that up because, in older days, 50, 60, 70, before the internet, you couldn't have done that. You would have had to go to an encyclopedia, something of that nature to read or get information on whatever passion you wanted to pursue. And for everybody listening, just know that the resources that we have today, you can and will do anything that you put your mind to. But that was just a quick little tangent. So boom, like I said, I did nothing but research 2019 from September to December. And I ended up building a PowerPoint prototype. I was in Knoxville, Tennessee. This was my senior year. And people were trying to charge me $6,000 to build a prototype. I was a senior. I just got injured. I did not have $6,000 to do that. So I went ahead and built a PowerPoint prototype. And I used that to show at least 15 different professors, administrators at my school, Maryville College. And I finally got a meeting with the dean of my school for March 3rd, 2020. Had that meeting. It went amazing. We had about 5 different professors in there, plus the dean, and they actually introduced me to their app development team. Now, if everybody remembers 2020, that's when, especially mid 2020 of March, that's when COVID really hit. And that kind of shook everything up and actually cut off communication with me and the app developers for about 4 or 5 months. So I was like, I'm not going to allow, an external factor to kind of limit what I'm going to do with promoting financial literacy. So I ended up starting a podcast called FYI FLI, for your information, financial literacy and investing. We started that in August of 2020. Since then, we've actually accumulated 35,000 plus downloads, been listened to in 50 plus countries, and we won Podcast of the Year last year at the Southern Entertainment Awards.
Fantastic. And so now it's not only an app and a podcast, it's a book, it's a brand. I mean, you've basically become a brand. So let's talk a little bit about the book, because this was an unbelievable opportunity for you to pivot. I mean, you had to pivot because of the injury. You had to pivot because of COVID. There's a lot in this book, and I have it here as well. There's a lot in this book that is basic economics. There's a lot that's basic budgeting. There's a lot that you really channel the high school experience a little bit. This is really written for younger people who are trying to figure this out, although I don't think that's 100%. The only audience. It could be enjoyed by anybody. But just some of the basics. One of the things you talk about the emergency fund and how you don't like the name emergency fund because it channels negative connotation. And so you said you like to call it a peace of mind fund.
Yes, sir.
For the record, I've always called it an emergency and opportunity fund, because somehow that feels like it could be either side of the spectrum, but you're ready for it.
You know, we're aligned, man. Come on.
But I like peace of mind fund too, because that is an important component. You talk about supply and demand. You talk about some of the basics of what a recession is, because I think that word gets tossed around, and particularly young people who haven't seen it. I mean, even you admit freely in the book that 2008 you were a young guy.
I'm 10 years old. Yep.
Yeah, you're 10 and I'm not. By the way, since you took a tangent, I'm taking a tangent. You were talking about 50, 60, 70 years before the internet. First of all, the internet was not that recent. Second of all, you just channeled my entire high school and college experience of looking in encyclopedias, going to libraries, photocopying stuff. That was the research. So I feel 130 years old right now, and I appreciate that very, very much. So tell me about how the book came to be, because you're trying. I know what you're trying to do with it. You're really trying to educate, and it's a strong educational tool. It's got a workbook built into it. So there's questions 100%. That you can go through to sort of test what you've learned. I was doing it on an airplane, and people were all looking over my shoulder like, what is this guy studying? So hopefully they saw the book. Hopefully they snapped a picture on the sly,
Yes,
sir. So tell me a little bit about how the book came to be and why you structured it in the way you did.
Yeah, man. So with my first book, From College to COVID, 24 Lessons Learned During the Lockdown, what I did was I incorporated 5 lessons that I learned going from college to COVID, started my entrepreneurial journey during that time. And then I included 19 lessons from my podcast guests to make 24 in whole. Well, as you know, as we both are, we're podcasters, we're interviewers, we're communicators. I wanted to keep kind of that same feel, but with this one, I needed to interview economic experts. I needed to interview recession experts that could give me that expert analysis, that expert insight that I could insert into the book. Because as we talked about, I was 10 years old during 2008. So that's not economy and recessions aren't my specialty. I wasn't a financial literacy educator back then, unfortunately. So I went out and sought their expert information, got 5 of the greatest minds that I could find. Arindam Nag, who's the CEO of Sensei Financial Education, Dr. Michael Thomas, who teaches at the University of Georgia, a multitude of great minds that I incorporated into the book. And as you said, this book is, it seems like it's for younger folks, the high school, college, recent grad students. But really for anyone who wants more information on recession and how it actually impacts us. That's what I wanted. I wanted a guide for people to make and manage money during this time, but I want them to know how the recession affects us, how the recession, how we can prepare for the recession. And that's why I didn't just start it off with the basic definition of what is a recession? 2 declining quarters of GDP. I didn't want to start it off like that. I wanted people to know exactly how it affects them, how it affects their pockets, and then what they can do to prepare.
Well, it's definitely not a textbook. In fact, it's a story. You tell you're very, very open about your own path and how you got involved in this. And that's part of the things. One of the things I enjoyed the most about it was very human. You know, I don't want to sit in my free time, and I was sitting on an airplane, which I consider free time, and I don't want to read a textbook. But I thoroughly enjoyed this one. And, you know, there not only are there a lot of nuggets of wisdom, but there were a couple of things that made me want to just grab the Fed by the throat and shake them. Okay. Because you put into just plain language how the government, the federal government, is trying to drive consumer behavior on a macro level, and how that affects us on a micro level. Can you talk a little bit about where inflation and the cost of goods and services actually hits consumer behavior? Because I thought that was a really interesting take on this, and I hadn't seen it quite that way.
Yes. I was very surprised while I was doing my interviews to hear how everything is literally a cause and effect. You know, so and especially with these last 3 years, with COVID, with quarantine, with other political impacts, they really have shifted the way that we're spending in our consumer behavior. Right now, you know, it hasn't been a time since the Black Plague where people have been, people have been locked in the house and not been able to go anywhere. So these last 2 years have prompted people, have expedited people's spending habits, and like, it's time to get out. You know, we've been locked in for these last 2 years. This is the first, I would say, real summer. You know, COVID's still around, but like, this is the first real summer where it feels like everything's kind of lifted, no mask requirements and things of that nature. So everybody's spending. And, we have to, and that's why I said in the book, this is not a job I would want to have, because it seems very difficult to try to balance, whether we're going to raise the interest rates, lower the interest rates. If we lower them, now people are spending a little bit more. We raise them. People are still spending a bit more because of what we've talked about from the last 3 years. So it's a very, very difficult situation. And I've studied a lot of different experts, and people are, some people say that we will be going into a recession. Some people that, especially for those last 2 quarters of 2022, technically we were in a recession, from the technical definition, but experts are saying a lot of different things. But I'm just excited to see where it goes. And that's why I wanted to create this book, because if it does go bad, we have a guide. If it does go good, we still do have a guide that allows, because I also included 8 online side hustles. So people could be having an extra stream of income while they're at home, or even if they're working that 9-to-5 job, come home and do your 6 to 12 with one of these drop shipping, starting a unique blog, anything of that nature is also in the book. And then to round it off for the 4th chapter, we how to manage that money that you just made during this, downfall or recession.
So there's some generational oddities at work here, as far as I'm concerned, because when you look back and you look at the greatest generation, had, they all had pensions. Social Security was adequate to not only support them, but to support them during their entire lifetimes, because they weren't living quite as long. And then you move forward to boomers, and boomers were a generation who started to lose some of those pensions. Some of them still have them. Certainly the government employees do, but a lot of the private employers did away with pensions during this cycle. And boomers are going to live longer than their parents did, in a lot of cases, not every case, of course, but in a lot of cases. But boomers they are such a huge population that almost everything in this country is swaying toward satisfying what the boomers need and want, right? Things like assisted living facilities and elder care type place. That's all happening because the boomers are such a huge generation. Well, the generation after the boomers, we're proud Gen Xers. We really are. And we're also a small and feisty group. And mostly the reason Reality Bites was such a popular movie in our time is because we feel shafted, because we're this tiny generation between these 2 huge generations. We are going to be swung toward what the boomers need, and then we are going to whiplash right back to what the millennials want because we don't have any voting power. So if there's a chip on my shoulder, it's real.
Yes.
But millennials were the ones who coined the side hustle. So going back to the book idea and having this separate piece, when it was the greatest generation, one working member of the household could support a family of four.
Yeah.
In Gen X, it required two working parents, really, to adequately support a family of four. And that's why we became latchkey kids. And I could tell you lots of stories about my lack of adult supervision, but I think you've already guessed that from knowing me a little while. But it took two working parents, which means the kids were sort of on their own. Millennials now, you can't even get by, and Z's, it's even more. You're a Z, I guess, but it's even more because now two working adults can barely support a family of four without at least one having a side hustle.
Yeah.
So we went in 50 to 75 years, we went from one job supporting a family of four to three jobs supporting a family of four. That and during a time when inflation wasn't rampant, it was in the 80s, but it hasn't been in a long time. What do Gen Zs, when I'm not invited to that party, because I'm not, when the Gen Zs all get together and they talk shop, what is the messaging around how are we going to do this? You're all free agents, right? You know you're free agents. You're not getting the gold watch and the company, the company thank you letter on your 30th year. That's just not the way the world works anymore. So what are Gen Zs telling each other, and how do you cope with the fact that now you really don't have the other two legs of the stool? The three-legged stool was always government, it was Social Security, it was employer, it was your pension, and then it was your own piece. Well, you guys are on your own. I mean, you're literally a yo-yo instead of a stool. So what are you telling each other?
Yeah, man. So the conversations but I am actually kind of happy about this because it feels like my generation is in, agreement with, we need our 9-to-5 job and we need either our business on the side or some type of side hustle. I am very happy to say I'm one of those people, especially on social media. I'm sure you've seen a lot of the experienced entrepreneurs and the ones who are already successful are telling a lot of their followers, quit your 9-to-5, don't work a 9-to-5, start your business, start your side hustle today. And maybe that's because they have courses that you can buy.
Of course.
But so
not to be cynical or anything, Hassan, but all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Go ahead and throw those guys under the bus. That's fine.
No shade. But one thing that I've found is it feels like the Gen Z generation, we do understand the times that we live in, and we know that one income is too close to none. We need to have some type of main source of income and that side hustle. So something that's kind of paying our bills and then allowing us to have fun and have those experiences. Because one thing I've noticed about my generation, no matter how much money we're making, we're going to eat good and we're going to travel and do experiences. That's just my generation.
Well, and I don't think that's a bad thing. If you can afford to do it, you should. Like, I've seen too many people who literally hoard their wealth, waiting for that. You didn't like that rainy day concept in your book either, but you sort of hoard it for the future. And then something happens, your spouse passes away or you're medically not able to do those things. And so the trip you plan to take for 30 years, you never take. And to me, that is insanely sad. So I love the idea that the 9-to-5 is to build some wealth for the future and the side hustle is to play today. If that's truly what it is, then I feel better about it for the Gen Zs. Like I felt like a lot of them had to do that just to pay the bills.
Yeah, so definitely that main income source, and of course having a roommate definitely does help. But even for myself, I've been building FYI FLI since 2020, since I graduated. But I've worked a side hustle since then as well. I've actually had a side hustle, side income job since 2018, since I was in college. I played football, had a scholarship, and worked a part-time job. So I kept that part-time job Ended up losing it, but I had other multiple positions coming up. I drove DoorDash. I've done all of those
Okay.
things. And it literally just happened in, like I was telling you with the sponsorship, it just happened in October of 2022. So it just happened for me after 2 years of grinding nonstop relentlessly. So that just goes to show, you keep working, you have a plan, and things will eventually work out for you. I like it. I like to call it going from glory to glory. You succeed at one level, you put in the work, you put in the preparation, and you jump to the next one. You succeed, you put in that work, the preparation, each level is different. One level I would have to work on empathy. One level that I need to work on one level I will work on is speaking. One level in the beginning, stop saying your ums, don't do the ums. Everything is a progression. So for anybody listening, make that plan, get your plan of action, and go out there and make a play. It's as simple as that. Me and my coach like to say, make a plan and make a play.
Well, I can assure you that our executive producer is very happy that you're not umming and on through the show. In fact, we probably just flagged it about 4 times just now talking about what not to do.
Yes, sir. Say a little easier editing for him.
Well, look, you're a natural public speaker. I mean, I've seen you on stage a number of times, and you have a natural energy. And I think you have the combination of energy and leadership. People will follow you. And I think that's why you've built a following on your show already, is that your energy is contagious. I've seen it at work. And your message is important. So it's a great combination when you have something to say and you know what you're talking about and you can get people to actually listen to you. You can be an influencer, and you're certainly proving that.
Yes, sir.
So I got to know what's next for FYI FLI. What's the next? I need like an inside scoop here. Like, I got to know something you haven't told everybody is coming so that when I release this show, it'll be like hot news.
Okay. So we're coming back for season 4 sometime next year. We're looking to do some in-person interviews. I'm out here in beautiful South Florida. So I know I can find me a nice spot with some water in the background and everything. So we want to start doing those in-person interviews to really feel the energy. Got to get you out here, my man. So we can definitely do that. But
I'm happy to come to South Florida, but not in the summer. I'll come in February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you know what, November, where it's still 80, 85 degrees out here, man.
No, 80, I melt when it's 80. I want like 60. So February.
Got you. Yeah. No worries, man. No worries. So yeah, man, we're going to be working on bringing season 4 back of the podcast. Also going to be working on my 3rd book. We just got the 2nd one out, but I'm already in here, man, thinking about getting my 3rd book out for next week. We're just excited to continue to impact high school, college, and recent grad students in whatever ways that I can, whether it be speaking engagements at colleges, high schools, book sales, podcast, live events, anything of that nature. We're just looking forward to doing it all and getting it out there, man.
So tell me about your team, because I know it takes more than one person to build an empire, right? Tell me about the team. Tell me about the folks who work on the podcast with you, the folks who work in the publishing. Like, who's your support network, your entourage?
So those main things, honestly, are just me. I still edit the podcast. I still do everything for the podcast. I did everything for the book as far as self-publishing. I did pay a graphic designer to help out. Oh, so yeah, I can't bring this up. So I just paid. This is my first time actually paying a coach. So for anybody listening, really do invest into yourself, because before, when it was just me and I was just getting started, I don't know, I didn't feel that the investment in a coach was necessary. But when you have something built up, when you've practiced and you need someone else's help to reach a next level, pay for a coach. That coach will provide results, and not just any coach, but someone or some person that you want to be like or be on their level. Paying them will give you I don't know if any listeners have been to Disney with that fast pass, when you can pay the fast pass and skip the line. That's kind of like what it is for paying a coach.
I like that. I was at Disney very recently, and the fast pass, the quick queue, whatever they all call it, something different.
Yeah.
I legit don't care what it costs, because waiting 3 hours to get on a ride makes me not very happy. So makes sense. No, I like that. And there's lots of kinds of coaches. I mean, there are financial coaches who we've seen work with folks. In fact, when we were in Orlando together, we met a lot of financial coaches and financial therapists and other folks who help with that. But there are also executive coaches and life coaches, and I'm sure there are podcast coaches out there somewhere. There are definitely writing coaches. So how do you choose your coaching staff when you're going to have a staff of one?
Yeah, so you got to choose what area that you're trying to break into. The first book that I released, From College to COVID, 24 Lessons Learned During the Lockdown, I realized my mistake was trying to market to Gen Z, high school, college, recent grad students through social media regarding the book. When I was in high school, when I was in college, I never got on social media to buy a finance book. That's not what I was thinking about in high school or college.
Yes, it is. Come on, be honest. You were nerding out on that when you were in 2008. When you were 10, you were already nerding out on that, and I know you were. You're not
Young prodigy,
anybody.
right?
Right. Yes. Okay. No, you're right, because that's not where people want to buy. That's not what they're thinking about.
Yeah. So, and I brought that up to say that's what I realized. That was my initial mistake for the first book. So for the second book, I went ahead and hired a book distribution coach. So not necessarily a writing coach, because I've already had wrote the book at the time. What I was focused on was getting the books into high schools and colleges where it could actually have impact, where the teachers, administrators could buy the book and then distribute them to the high school and college students. It's a pretty attractive book, if I do say so myself. So I think, listen, I just so everybody knows we all have one, then we can have FOMO. Everybody wants one. Yes. So my thing is, when the high school college student sees it, I believe that they will be attracted to it. It won't be like a turn off, like, what is this workbook there? So, that was my goal for this book. So to answer the question, understand your goals, understand what you're trying to do, and look who can get you there. Look who's already been there. And that's why I'm saying you paying that coach can expedite your process. It probably could have took me 10 years, 5 years to go speak at Savannah State and Benedict College, but my book coach had connections there. That kind of lifted me or catapulted me into those schools. You get good footage of that, and now you can send that to other schools and replicate the process. So find whatever area, whatever niche that you want to go in. Find a person that's already doing it. We're on social media. We already talked about the resources that are available to us nowadays. Find that person, follow everybody in that niche, and hey, shoot them a DM, click the link in their bios, talk to them a bit. Don't just jump in and start paying them. Have some conversations. Right. If they can't get on a call with you, that is a little strange, but make sure you talk with this person, feel comfortable working with them, set clear goals from your guys' working together. And then I think that would be a great way to get started with the coach.
All right. Well, I'm excited to ask you this next question because I'm afraid of the answer. And when I say I'm afraid of the answer, I'm afraid that my mind is going to be blown here. So no pressure at all. But what's next for you? What do you want to be when you grow up?
Honestly, I want to follow in. My mom has always said it over me. I want to be the next Tony Robbins, man. I want to be the next author, speaker, world-renowned speaker. My mom and a lot of I just started working with a social media manager as well. That just happened. And she says she sees me being more than just the financial literacy guy. She sees me being able to speak on more topics. My mom has always said that I study Tony Robbins. She used to have a crush on him back then, but we're going to keep that. We're going to keep that.
Oh, well, that's no longer a secret. Mom, your story is out. For the record, that's going to be the lift quote we use for the show, for the show tile.
Say Hassan's mom loves Tony Robbins.
But I think that's a great, I mean, if what you want to do is motivate people to better themselves and you want to do 100%. It on a grand scale, first of all, I'm glad to be able to say that I knew you when, because I know you're on your way to that. And I'm excited for you. You know, people asked me when I started, you know, in this business and I started doing the podcast and everything else. And I did have some media types say, well, what is your goal? What do you want? And I said, well, the world deserves better than Jim Cramer and Susie Orman. Why not me? Yeah. So I love that you're thinking that way. I mean, I'm certainly thinking that way too. Not that any of the major news networks have called yet, though I am available. So I love that answer. And I have no doubt that's true. So we need an extra credit assignment for our audience because we don't believe in homework. Despite the fact that I know you could give us 27 homework assignments, no homework allowed. Talk about extra credit. What can particularly young people, but anyone, what can someone do right now to either improve their financial literacy, because I think that is important and people need to know how that works, or to improve their financial condition of themselves or their family?
Okay, so I'll drop some quick gems and then I have a question for you, if that's okay.
It's not okay.
I'm sorry.
It is not okay. Of course it's okay. Go ahead.
So as far as extra credit, I would say just start with learning. Whenever we don't know something or we're not aware of something, we automatically fear it. So if we can start with learning some small gems, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a book, whether it's any type of educational resource, tap in with that, because it's a bit different than, I feel like financial literacy, financial education is a bit different than learning about chemistry or learning. I mean, if you're a chemist, of course, but if you're not a chemist, not in that field, the mitochondria has nothing to do with what you're going to be doing in life. So
wait, isn't that biology?
Oh, biology, chemistry, one of those.
Science. We're going to call it science.
Yes,
that's
sir.
Why we're in finance. Okay, good.
Yeah. So whenever you're learning financial education, you can literally learn and then go earn from what you just learned. So it's completely different because you can learn it and then apply it instantly. So once you learn about credit, you can go download a credit app. You can go, make sure that you're setting up automated payments so you're paying your credit bill on time, and that's raising your credit score. You can do those things and they have an immediate impact. That's what we want. Let's just be honest. That's what people want. We want immediate gratification. And fortunately, not with investing, but with a lot of other things in personal finance, you can learn it and then go get active immediately. So start there, tap into those, not an emergency fund, but a peace of mind fund. Check out high yield savings accounts. Literally the same thing as a regular savings account, but you're getting more bang for your buck. So check out a high yield savings account. You should hold your peace of mind fund, which is normally called an emergency fund, in there. And the rest of your money should be invested, making money for you. But save that peace of mind fund, that emergency fund, in a high yield savings account so you get more bang for your buck. And I think you should be fine starting there. Educate yourself and just continue to learn, continue to progress, because this information will truly change your life.
I love the extra credit assignment. I am afraid to ask what your question is, but I'm gonna give you the opportunity, because if worst comes to worst, we can edit it directly out of the show. So, what can I answer for you, Hassan?
Yes, sir, man. Yes, sir. So I just wanted to ask, author, speaker, motivator, financial coach, all of those things both describe us. But I would like to know from your synopsis, what would you say has been the biggest lesson that you've learned that could help a younger person that's in our lane, that's in our field?
Sure. I will answer this two ways. The first is, you're going to have me on your show if you want to ask me that question again, and then we can talk about it at length. But the second answer, the Cliff Notes answer is that I have surrounded myself with people who are smarter than me, more capable than I am, in all different walks and who are different than I am. And I've surrounded myself with an incredible team of humans at work, personally, my network. And I think no matter what field you're in, it's cliche to say it's not what you know, it's who you know. But cliches are cliches for a reason. And so building a network and knowing lots of different kinds of people and feeling like you are 2 degrees of separation from just about anybody on the planet is an amazing skill. It's a networking skill. It's a relational skill. And I'd say no matter what field you're in, even chemistry or biology, since we're not sure which is which, either of those, any field, in any field, I think that's the best advice I could give. And the thing that has propelled me has been just meeting people, getting to know you and having not only some fun, but learning from you and growing together. And it's been great to watch your journey. Where can folks check out your podcast? Where can they buy a copy of this book and all that good stuff before we close the day?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you guys can check out the book From College to COVID to Recession on aftercovidmoneybook.com. That is aftercovidmoneybook.com. Perfect. And how about the podcast? Where's the best place to get that? Yes. So we are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Spotify, and we're actually on YouTube as well under FYI FLI, which stands for Your Information, Financial Literacy, and Investing. And that is FYI FLI. So you can definitely check us out. We release episodes every FinLit Friday. And we actually just started interviewing independent artists and producers as well every Music Monday. So you can check us out on Mondays and Fridays.
Love it. Listen, this has been fun. I knew it would be. I knew that this half hour or so would fly by. No pun intended.
Definitely did.
But I definitely want to do this again. And if you're recording in South Florida, as long as you don't mind flying me down, private or first class or something, I'm willing to appear on your show. All right.
Hey, man, we got to get your economy, baby. Financial literacy.
Oh, yeah. I keep forgetting what industry we're in. This has been fun. Thank you for being on the show. You've been an awesome guest. And I'm excited for your message to reach a broader and different audience through doing this. So thank you. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I'd like to thank all of you for listening and watching today. We'd love to hear from you. So please send us a message or leave us comments at don'tretiregraduate.com or on social media. If you enjoy our show, don't keep us a secret. Share it with your friends and family so they can join you on your journey to financial freedom. And please leave ratings and reviews on your favorite podcast platforms. They are priceless to us. We'll be back next week with another installment of Office Hours and in 2 weeks with another engaging guest. For now, this is your host, Eric Brotman, reminding you, don't retire, graduate. Don't Retire, Graduate is part of the Evergreen Podcast Network.
Securities offered through Kestra Investment Services, LLC, Kestra IS, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Kestra Advisory Services, LLC, Kestra AS, an affiliate of Kestra IS. Kestra IS or Kestra AS are not affiliated with Brotman Financial or any other entity discussed.
Welcome, change agents, to your go-to place for stories that ignite your spirit, fuel your purpose, and connect us all. We believe in the incredible power of the human spirit, its boundless resilience, and the inspiration it brings to our lives. On the Driving Change podcast, we'll journey together through the extraordinary yet very relatable experiences of some of the most amazing people on earth. Our mission? That through these stories, we might just spark change within you and awaken a newfound motivation to harness your unique gifts to make a real difference in the world. So get ready to be inspired and join us on this incredible adventure. You can find the Driving Change podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you love listening to your favorite podcasts.